Nana Shastra Vicharanai Kanipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanamitakariano Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padara Venda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Sri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Sri Jiva Gopalako. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they're honored all over the three worlds, and they're worth taking shelter of because they're absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachade Charane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj ki jai. So devotees, here we are, 28th day, 28th session, Nectar of Devotion, going into chapter 15, Spontaneous Devotional Service, classically known as Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Now, of course, you know, we started last night, actually, and we made a fairly solid start. It's extremely important, though, to get these things clear. So let me just a little bit, just catch up again. That here we're talking about Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Or I should say, we are beginning the discussion on that subject. It is not such a simple subject, frankly. Let us give a little bit of the history, the background. A devotee practices Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti for some time. And then, after making good advancement in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the possibility exists that the devotee may develop a strong attraction to serving Krishna as the Brijbasis do, the eternal associates of the Lord in Vrindavan, as they do. A real attraction, and feel driven to try to learn how to serve like that, to serve like those devotees. So, those devotees, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they're known as Rag Atmik. We talked about that last night. There is something called Rag, and Rag is defined as a spontaneous, deep thirst for the object of love. Bhakti that is impelled exclusively by such a thirst is called Rag Atmik or Rag Atmika Bhakti. And the devotees of Vrindavan, Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, Srimati Radharani and company, they're like that. They are, you could say, practically obsessed with Krishna. They cannot think of anything else. Deep thirst, agreed, I must serve Krishna in terms of their particular rasa. This applies generally to the top 4 rasas, not really so much neutrality, but servitude, friendship, parenthood, and conjugal love. In these rasas, the devotees may feel that greed, that thirst, that we must serve Krishna in that way and please him. And they become so, well, I've used the word obsessed, which is not a nice word actually, generally. But here it does convey sort of the flavor which is there. Yes, a spontaneous attraction for Krishna, while completely absorbed in thoughts of him, with an intense desire of love, meaning to serve him in terms of one's particular rasa. And when a devotee has that strong, or at least let us say for the time being, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the eternal associates of the Lord in Vrindavan, because they're so driven to serve the Lord and please him in any way, at any cost, practically, in terms of the rasa which they are in. What happens? Well, a few things happen. But one thing which happens is they forget that Krishna is God, that he is the Supreme Lord, most worthy of respect, who should be worshipped in very formal and even extravagant ways with the very best of everything, with extreme respect. They forget that, and they simply see Krishna in terms of their rasa. Like Srimati Radharani and the gopis, they see him as the most beautiful and wonderful young boy, and they just want to embrace him and kiss him and also serve him in different ways, which are relevant to the conjugal relationship. Like, for example, make garlands for him. That's very nice in the conjugal rasa. How about to dress nicely for him? because they see that Krishna becomes pleased when their appearance is beautiful. So they think, oh, it pleases Krishna if we look beautiful. Let us make ourselves as beautiful as possible. Not as in material life, at least, we hear happens. Particularly, I don't know, but we hear happens, particularly in the unmarried situation, that the girl may go to great lengths to make herself look beautiful so as to attract the young boy. Is this right or not? No comment. Anyway, we hear. I can report that I have heard these things. But not just trying to snare some young man, catch him, or something, take advantage of him, or whatever. But here, the gopis are thinking that that we want to please Krishna, how will we do that? Yes, he becomes pleased when we're dressed nicely. We will dress very nicely. So, yeah, it is, as we read, a deep thirst, a greed, how to please Krishna. How can we do it? And it becomes so powerful, they forget, as we said, that he's God. And they see him just as this most wonderful young boy from the village. And they engage in all sorts of activities to please him in different ways. So that is rag, that greed to please, that thirst, overwhelming desire to please Krishna. This is rag. And these devotees who have it, they're called rag atmik. It means within themselves, atma meaning the self, within themselves they have rag. So we talked about that last night. Anyway, so we will continue right now. There's all sorts of things here. It's all very interesting, different perspectives. Right at the beginning, Srila Prabhupada makes the point that these devotees, these rag atmik devotees, and don't forget what we said last night about the use of the word raganuga in chapter 15. It, with respect, is not correct. The term is rag atmik. And you can gather that, if you want to sort of kind of prove it or clarify it a bit to yourself, you read through Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 22, and you will find some of the very verses which are being paraphrased here. Yes. And this, in fact, is the discussion which is being paraphrased here, at least that part of chapter 22 of Madhya Lila. Anyway, Prabhupada makes the point in the first paragraph that these Brijbasis, ragatmik devotees, just full of that thirst, that desire to please Krishna in terms of whatever rasa they're in, Prabhupada says, they don't have to learn anything. They don't need to go to classes, how to practice devotional service. They don't need to. They don't need to worry about following regulative principles. Not because regulative principles don't matter, but as Prabhupada says, they're already perfect in all regulative principles. They naturally follow them. There's no question that they're going to sort of drift off into some fall down or even some contemplation of such materialistic activities. And they already have spontaneous love. Therefore, they're rag atmic. They already possess within themselves that spontaneous love. In the next paragraph, where are we here? Oh, okay. No, first paragraph. Back to the first paragraph, sorry. Back to the first paragraph, and Prabhupada gives the example. For example, the cowherd boys, they're playing with Krishna. They don't have to learn by doing austerity or penances, yogic practice, how to play with him. They've already graduated from the school of regulative principles in their previous lives. And so now they're in the position to directly associate with Krishna as his dear friends. So their spontaneous attitude is called rag atmic, bhakti. Then the second paragraph, most of this we've already covered just in the first so many minutes today and also yesterday, rag. But here at the end of the second paragraph, an interesting and important, very important point is made. There are two categories, two types of rag atmic devotional service. One is called sensual attraction, and the other is called relationship. What this means, let us just clarify a little bit what this is getting at. Sensual attraction, there's a Sanskrit term. It's called Kam Atmik, K-A-M, Kam Atmik. Kam, generally, according to the Sanskrit language, Kam meaning lust, not karma, like work, but Kam. Normally means lust in material life. Here, Prabhupada translates it as sensual attraction, means the attraction of the gopis. It appears to be a sensual attraction. And then relationship is called sambandh atmik. We're familiar with this term sambandha, I think. Sambandha means relationship. So sambandh atmik means those devotees who have within themselves the attraction to serve Krishna in terms of basically a general family type relationship, generally, like the Yadavas, for example, in Dwaraka. They are sambandh atmik devotees. The gopis in Vrindavan and the queens in Dwaraka, the queens, of course, much less, but still, they're in the category of Kam Atmik devotees. All right, so now, well, just before we launch into the third paragraph, which is quite a, sure. Anyway, it's a whole different thing, actually. Sort of different thing. I want to just read to you 5 verses by Srila Rupa Goswami from a poem of his called Lalita Pranam Stotra, which is also known as Lalitastakam. 8 verses in praise of Lalita. And when we read these verses, as we go into them step by step, you will get a picture of how someone who has this rag within themselves, this powerful desire to please Krishna, in this case, through conjugal pastimes, how they feel. Listen to this. I offer my respectful obeisances to charming and virtuous Lalita Devi, who worships the perspiration from Sri Sri Radha Mukunda's feet, and who out of great love is very bold and arrogant. I offer my respectful obeisances to charming and virtuous Lalita Devi, who gives the following instruction. Radha, please hear these beneficial words. Be contrary with the rogue, who is the prince of Raja. O dishonored one, do not become gentle and submissive for your own undoing. Out of love, out of great love, because she knows this pleases Krishna, to interact with him in these types of ways, pleases him, pleases Radharani, and heightens the whole experience of the conjugal relationships. I offer my respectful obeisances to charming and virtuous Lalita Devi, who, seeing Krishna even slightly cheat Sri Radha, with reddened eyes, shames the Prince of Raja with a flood of words. I offer my respectful obeisances to charming and virtuous Lalita Devi, who is the abode where the queen of the cowherds places her love, who is the teacher of the arts of friendship to her friends, and who considers Sri Sri Radha Krishna as dear as life. And the last verse that we'll read. I offer my respectful obeisances to charming and virtuous Lalita Devi, all of whose desires became at once completely fulfilled when she saw in Vraja the path of Sri Radha blocked by a certain person. Hare Krishna, excuse me. So you see, she is Kam Atmik. She doesn't have to learn it. She's totally absorbed in it. She knows what pleases Radha and Krishna. And, I mean, among other things, this is not the only thing, but among other things, she knows that Radha and Krishna are so much pleased when there are all sorts of challenges and, apparent, what would you say, apparent obstructions or apparent objections. There's practically nothing Krishna likes better than overcoming the objections of Radharani. Yeah. So therefore, it may sound abusive, it may sound non-devotional, but actually, It pleases so much, therefore she does it. If it didn't please, if something else pleased Radha and Krishna in their conjugal pastime, she'd do that. All right, so let's see, what else should we say here? Well, we did mention last night that in order to understand Raganuga, what is Raganuga? You have to understand what is Ragatmik first. And to understand what is Ragatmik first, you have to understand, at least to some reasonable degree, what is Rag. Without that, it's all sort of, I don't know, kind of strange. So we will go on now, what I call the second part, the second section of this chapter. It begins with paragraph 3, and it goes on to, where does it go? It includes paragraph 12. And this is, I call this examples of different persons who may or may not have or be in Ragatmik Bhakti. They may not. Let us see. Yes. They appear to have Rag. But whether it is Ragatmik Bhakti, they possess like some fanatical attraction. Again, not a nice word, but, it sort of gives the idea, overwhelming, burning attraction to Krishna. But depending on the case, the person and, the details of how they feel about Krishna, it may be Ragatmik Bhakti, or it may be something else, not Ragatmik Bhakti. So, let's just have a look at paragraph 3. And there, Srila Prabhupada quotes a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 7.1.30. And for that matter, 7.1.30, let's just say 7.1.30, we'll do that first. And then when we go on to the next paragraph, the specific individuals involved. So this verse, let me just read the verse, the Sanskrit. Kama dveshad bayat snehad. Do you understand those words? Kamad, by kama, apparent lust. Dvesha, by envy, inimical feelings, hatred. Baya, through fear. And sneha means like affection, sort of affection of the type of family affection, relationship type affection. Kama dveshad bayat snehad, yata bhaktyeshvare mana, aveshyatad agam hitva, bhavastad gatim gata. And I'm going to, anyway, we'll read from the translation as it appears in Nectar of Devotion, but we'll have to make one comment. My dear King, there are many devotees who first become attracted to the personality of Godhead for purposes of sense gratification, kama, from being envious of him, dveshad, out of fear of him, bayad, or from desiring to associate affectionately with him. That was snehad. Ultimately, these attractions become freed from all material contamination, and gradually the worshipper develops spiritual love and achieves that ultimate goal of life desired by the pure devotee. Well, I must comment, again, I'm sure it's not Srila Prabhupada, it's the editors. It's not exactly that there are many devotees, there are different people. Yes. And they become attracted in these four ways, or at least one each, either sense gratification, either from envy, either out of fear, or from desiring just to have a simple, affectionate relationship. And they become purified by that. They become purified and achieve a spiritual goal. They achieve a great spiritual goal. Let me read the translation that Prabhupada gives in Srimad Bhagavatam. Many persons have attained liberation simply by thinking of Krishna with great attention and giving up sinful activities. This great attention may be due to lusty desires, inimical feelings, fear, affection, or devotional service. I shall now explain how one receives Krishna's mercy simply by concentrating one's mind upon him. Means in this way of rag, so strongly in any one of those different moods. So we go on to paragraph 4, and here Srila Prabhupada tells us who are these people, or at least like the classic examples of these four categories of people. Superficially, it seems that the gopis are attracted to Krishna on grounds of sex. But it wasn't. It looks like that. Therefore, it's the term kam, atmik, is used. It looks like lust, but it's not. Then, in terms of fearful, who was fearful? Kamsa was fearful. Kamsa was so fearful. He couldn't stop thinking of Krishna. At night, he would lie there wanting to sleep, but his mind would just be going, Krishna, 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 Krishna. And he'd try and stop himself, but he couldn't. His mind just kept on going, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And he became just so disoriented by this attachment to Krishna, obsession with Krishna, that he just couldn't give up. He started going mad. He would look in the mirror and see nothing. It's said to be a sign that you're going to die shortly. So just watch out if it happens to you. Then, so it's an attraction, it's a driving, powerful attraction. Yeah. So it's considered that there is rag, a type of rag, because you can also have material rag. You can definitely have material rag, but it's in this case it's an attraction to Krishna. So it's considered that he had rag. Then Shishupal also, he was so envious that actually this verse from the 7th canto, chapter 30, did we say? Or chapter 1. This is Narada Muni speaking to Maharaj Yudhisthira just after Shishupal was killed by Krishna. I mean, just moments after. And then the soul came out of the body of Shishupal and entered Krishna. And Yudhisthira, understanding that this means that Shishupal got some form of liberation, he was astonished. And he asked Narada Muni, who happened to be right there, how could he get that? To enter the body of the Lord, you got to do pious activities and austerities and so many difficult things for lifetimes. What to speak of being very pious. But this person, even from the age of a child, unable to properly speak, he never did anything other than criticize Krishna. So in other words, Shishupal also had a form of rag. And then actually two other categories are mentioned. Those who are attached to Krishna through affection, which means, Prabhupada says here, the yadus. And then in at least in the Bhagavatam itself, he mentions devotional service. Yata bhaktyeshvare mana. Who is included in that category? Narada Muni himself. He puts himself in that category. Aha. Okay. You know, the thing about the Yadus and their family relationship with Krishna, which Prabhupada mentions here, is that, you know, family relationship, it's not so strong. Just general family relationship. It's not so strong. So he says, in regard to the Yadus, if it's on the platform of friendship, then it's spontaneous love or ragatmic. But if it's on the platform of regulative principles, then it's Vaidhi. All righty. So let's go on to, where are we? I think we're in paragraph 5. We just got into paragraph 5. Let's have a look at paragraph 5. So again, it's the same themes. At least the same themes are mentioned. The attraction of the gopis for Krishna and the affection of the Yadu dynasty. They're accepted as rag atmic. Bhakti. Rag atmic, devotional service. But the attraction of Kamsa and Shishupal, it may have rag, but it's not bhakti. It's not bhakti, because they actually hate Krishna. They have no bhakti. They definitely have no actual bhakti. But the thing is that because they're so, this is now Kamsa and Shishupal, because they're so focused on Krishna and they just cannot take their attention away from Krishna at all because of the rag, therefore they become purified. They become purified through contact with Krishna within their minds. But the problem is the attitude is unfavorable. And you remember back when we were discussing the Paribhas Sutra, the attitude has to be anukul, favorable. It has to be anukul, favorable, and not pratikul, pratikul means unfavorable. So they were just super unfavorable. Therefore, they cannot get the same result as devotees. But they were focused on Krishna, so they became purified. So what result did they get? Well, devotees, in paragraph 6, it describes that, the gopis, they went back to Godhead, but Kamsa and Shishupal and people like them who become focused like that on Krishna negatively, they could attain, Prabhupada says at the end of paragraph 6, they could attain only to the Brahman effulgence. It says devotees like Kamsa or Shishupal. Anyway, okay, they're not exactly devotees. So they could only attain the Brahman effulgence. That's a liberated platform. It's not bad. It's way above ordinary material life, but it's way below having a loving relationship with the Lord in Vaikuntha, or particularly in Goloka Vrindavan. Prabhupada goes on in paragraph 7 to talk about, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. What are the relationships? The sun globe is like Bhagavan. The sunshine is like Brahman. You can't exactly separate them, but still the sun globe is really something quite different from the sunshine. Particularly here in the winter, it's quite cool. So the sunshine, you can't separate it from the sun, but it just doesn't have the same Shakti. But you try to land on the sun globe. That's a different story. So, and also, Prabhupada makes the point, where are we? Well, going on actually. Well, in paragraphs 7 and 8, that Kamsa and Shishupal entered the Brahmajyoti, not Goloka Vrindavan. Just like the impersonalists and the enemies of the Lord are, because of attraction to the Lord, even though it's not favorable, but it's an attraction. So they're allowed to enter his kingdom. But in this context, it means just the Brahman effulgence. And the same thing is described in paragraph 8. It's essentially the same thing. Even though Kamsa and Shishupal, they're envious of the Lord, and the impersonalists, they're often, or usually, or maybe always, at least often, envious of the Lord. But because they focus on the Lord, so like practically undeviatingly, the Lord gives them some mercy. Go to the Brahmajyoti, although the Brahmajyoti is not really so wonderful. In paragraph 9, Prabhupada makes the point that sometimes impersonalists change and they become personalists. It happens. Shukadev Goswami, the four Kumars, we know of these cases. Let's see now, where do we go from here? So the difference is, it's a question of love. And, the point is made a few times here and there, but in paragraph 10, 10, yes. The point is made that the devotees, the gopis have love. And because they have love, they go to Goloka Vrindavan. Then we come to paragraph 11. And let's just read this verse from the 10th canto. It's the personified Vedas. My dear Lord, yogis meditate upon your localized feature, and thus they achieve the spiritual perfection of being merged in the impersonal Brahmajyoti. Persons who treat you as an enemy achieve the same perfection without meditating. The gopis, who are embraced by your serpentine arms and who have such lusty attitudes, also achieve the same perfection. And as far as we are concerned, this is the personified Vedas speaking, as far as we're concerned, being different demigods in charge of the different parts of Vedic knowledge, we are always following in the footsteps of the gopis. Thus we hope to attain the same perfection. So the personified Vedas did. They followed in the footsteps of the gopis and they attained Goloka Vrindavan. Okay, now the last paragraph in this section is paragraph 12, which starts off, the lusty attitude of the gopis. So that quote unquote, please note, the quote unquote, lusty attitude of the gopis does not refer to any sort of sex indulgence. Srila Rupa Goswami explains that this quote-unquote lusty desire refers to the devotee's particular attitude of association with Krishna. Well, let's just read the whole thing. It's interesting. Every devotee in his perfectional stage, every ragatmic devotee, has a spontaneous attraction to the Lord. This attraction is sometimes called the lusty desire of the devotee. The lust is the devotee's excessive desire to serve the Lord in a particular capacity. Such a desire may seem to be a desire for enjoying the Lord, but actually the endeavor is to serve the Lord in that capacity. And so we mentioned about Lalita, if you recall, just some minutes ago. We read those verses, and in a few of them, she speaks, you could say aggressively towards Krishna. It's kind of anti-Krishna, you could easily say. But it's not exactly. It's to please Krishna, it's to please Radharani, and it's to enhance the atmosphere of their getting together. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains how that Radharani was questioned by one devotee. Listen to this. The devotee said to Radharani, wouldn't it be better if you and Krishna could just be married? Then you could just be together the whole time. No one could criticize you at all, because they get criticized heavily for meeting when they're not married. And even Radharani is married to someone else, so they get super criticized. So the devotee said, wouldn't it be better if you could just be married? And then you could be together. Wouldn't have to worry about all these things. In fact, you would have to be together. Otherwise, people would criticize you if you were not together. Yeah. So Srimati Radharani thought about it. And she said, I think if we were married, it would just be boring. I would look in Krishna's eyes and I would say, I love you. And he would look in my eyes and say, I love you too. And I would look in his eyes again and say, I love you very much. And he would look at me and say, I love you very much too. And it would just be boring. So it's better it's like this. It's better there are all these obstacles and challenges. It makes things more exciting. And when we do meet, oh, it's so wonderful. Yes. So, all those obstacles are there. People trying to stop them. And those people who are trying to stop them are not demons. They are devotees, but they're being directed by Yoga Maya, by the Leela Shakti in such ways that they present obstacles to Radha and Krishna. But when those obstacles are there, the experience of their loving relationship is heightened dramatically heightened. Even though it may appear these people are doing, antagonistic things, they actually don't like Krishna. All right. So, anyway, there's a couple of little further things Prabhupada says here. For example, so the point is that the devotee has an excessive desire, overwhelming desire to serve Krishna in some particular way. For example, a devotee may be desiring to associate with Krishna as his cowherd friend. Then he will want to serve the Lord by assisting him in controlling the cows and the pasturing ground. This may appear to be a desire to enjoy the company of the Lord, but actually it is spontaneous love, serving him by assisting in managing the transcendental cows. So there's this, the next section is now going to focus on the love of the gopis. And we will go into it tomorrow. But I just want to make one point in sort of summary about the difference between raga-atmic devotees and other devotees who you may think they're raga-atmic, but actually they're not exactly. They're just extremely enthusiastic to serve the Lord in very respectful ways. Which means, and as soon as there's that respect that, oh, he's the Lord, he's the Supreme Personality, we must bow down before him, then the rag goes. Because the rag means the desire to please is so overwhelmingly strong that you only see the Lord in terms of the relationship. Conjugal, parental, friendly, or possibly servitude also. Just like when Uddhava came to preach to the Brijbasis after Krishna went to Mathura, that don't worry, Krishna is still here because he's the Lord, and the Lord is everywhere. And Nanda Maharaj told him, We want him here with us. We don't care about him being everywhere. We want to see him with us. And Nanda Maharaj says, I offer my obeisances to your Lord Krishna. Yeah, he's your Lord. He's not my Lord. He's my son. So we can take the example of Hanuman. We all know about Hanuman. He's super enthusiastic, so enthusiastic to do whatever the Lord wants, practically. And so he does amazing things. And what a wonderful service attitude. However, he does not have that rag because he still sees Lord Ram as the Lord. So in the end, when Lord Ram embraced Hanuman, the understanding is Hanuman was embarrassed. That my Lord, no, don't embrace me. I'm just a monkey. Please don't do it. But the Lord grabbed him. If it was a friend in Vrindavan, they just grab hold of Krishna and embrace him. And they do it all the time because of their rag. They just see them. He's my friend. That's all. We should try to understand the differences in those terms. And then we'll understand what is ragatmic bhakti and what is more Vaidhi bhakti. Shri Shri Radha Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Just one more minute, so then we'll understand what is Vaidhi bhakti, what is ragatmic, and then we'll understand what is raganuga sadhana bhakti. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki